a lot of questions about how this product ended up in convenience stores with no age limit, accessible to young people. David Hammond, you know a lot about these products and their approvals. What happened here?
Well, essentially, these products have gone through a different regulatory channel in Canada. We call it the Natural Health Products Act. That's typically things like sunscreens and herbal remedies. And essentially what we had is a tobacco company that has been selling cigarettes to Canadians for a century, put this product through and do it in a way where there's no age limit. So if a toddler could reach up to the counter, legally they could buy it. They're promoting it with lifestyle advertising, the types of imagery and ads that we've seen for vapes and cigarettes. And they've been doing it with very few warnings and information. And so it's a little bit like going back in time and seeing the same sorts of marketing that we've seen for other nicotine products. And we know that these are the practices that appeal more to young people than, for example, the adult smokers who they're ostensibly targeted at.
And David, I've talked to you about these products before. They look like this, like you said, very colorful marketing. The little pouch is just this big and people put it in between their lip and their gums. Very discreet. What's your sense? How much are kids using these products?
Well, we see lots of anecdotal information from kids talking to social media. We've been tracking this. Now, some of these products have only been on the market for about 8-9 months, but I can tell you that we're following it and we're in the field actually right now. And our preliminary findings suggest that it is going up in kids. We've seen about twice the number of kids as we did about 8 months ago using them. And we see and hear that they're using them for things like playing sports, for studying or getting energy. That looks very different than what they're supposed to be used for, which is to help adult smokers to quit.
I've seen that anecdotally on social media as well. For a medical perspective, we have pharmacy professor Leslie Phillips. Leslie, what is your biggest concern about these pouches?
It's definitely the uptake by youth and the potential impacts of nicotine use in individuals who don't smoke.
What are some of the impacts of nicotine on teenagers?
Yeah. Youth definitely are more susceptible to developing nicotine addiction. So I think there's a concern that using products like Zonnic can lead to dependence on nicotine, making it more challenging for people to quit later on. Definitely concerned about the impact on the developing brain. Our brains don't fully develop till we're in our mid-20s. So the part of our brain that can experience and enjoy addiction is fully developed at about age 12. But the part of our brain that has a bit of common sense or critical thinking, weighing the pros and cons, risky behaviors, probably doesn't develop till about the mid-20s. So you've got an individual able to experience the pleasure of drugs like nicotine, but probably not able to adequately weigh the pros and cons of those decisions. And it looks like nicotine use in that age population may actually impede the development of the brain, especially the areas that are involved with critical thinking, judgment, problem solving, memory, attention, and learning. And that effect may be irreversible, and if so, it could have a long-lasting impact.
Leslie, I'd imagine that's scary to hear for a lot of parents. As kids head back to school, there's peer pressure there. How do parents address this?
Well, I don't think a lot of parents really understand the impacts of these products. And in some cases, it's parents that are, buying the products, both vaping, both vapes and nicotine pouches, thinking that they're not harmful. When nothing could be further from the truth. They also have, significant impacts on mental health. So using nicotine in youth has been associated with increased anxiety, depression, problems with mood and with sleep regulation. And the tobacco industry really markets these products to youth as a stress reliever. But nicotine is a stimulant. It's not a stress reliever. It increases your heart rate. It increases your blood pressure. It's the very opposite of stress relief.
I think your point that parents really do need to start talking to kids about some of these impacts is important. David, the tobacco companies have found a loophole. It's a lot tougher to deal with this now that they're already on the shelves. What would you like to see happen?
Look, we need to get past this scenario where the government's always playing, catch up with the industry. The government's announced that they're going to restrict potentially advertising where these are sold. And the objective is to actually make them less appealing to kids and more appealing as a cessation aid to our 4 or 5 million smokers who need more help and might benefit from a less harmful substitute for smoking. So that's the goal, and we'll just have to see how quickly it acts and whether it achieves its objective.
The minister had talked about taking action back in February. We haven't seen much. We also haven't seen much on the vaping front. How optimistic are you?
Well, I would just say that time is not our ally here. We should be framing these products as therapeutic products to help smokers who need help. And every month that you leave them on with the marketing, with the ads, with the packaging, it's going to do the opposite. And it frames these products not as something a 50-year-old will use to quit smoking, but something a 15-year-old takes to the party with them. And there is an urgency to this.
A really important conversation. David Hammond, Leslie Phillips, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
CBC News reached out to the health minister about that legislation to restrict access. He said they are still committed to moving on this quickly with measures including moving nicotine pouches behind the counter and requiring all advertising be approved by regulators.